Well, hello there. This is all about Alex Belfield and his recall to prison. Now, in the UK, when someone is released from prison early, they have to follow strict guidelines laid out by the parole board. And if someone breaches these conditions, he can be recalled. So, what would cause a recall? A recalled prisoner does not need to commit a new crime. Common triggers include contacting the victim, harassing or similar behaviour, breaching exclusivity zones, using social media in a prohibited way, and failing to report to probation, and behaviour suggesting risk to reoffend. So someone like Belfield, who is a convicted stalker and who was convicted of harassment, the most likely recall reasons would be posting content targeting his victims, indirect harassment hinting, naming or encouraging others, and ignoring restrictions placed on him by probation. So how does the recall system work? There are a couple of types actually. So the standard type, this is where the risk is considered serious and the person goes back to prison. And this case is often reviewed by the parole board. The fixed term would be 14 to 28 days. The lower, this is for lower risk breaches and automatically be released again at the end of that period. And no probation board is required. They don't need to make a decision on that. And the third one is emergency recall, where is returned immediately due to high risk. Now, how long could he stay inside for? It all depends on the type of recalls and the risk assessment. 14 to 28 days is the fixed term, as I mentioned, and months longer if a standard recall. In some cases, a person can remain in prison until the end of their sentence if the parole board refuses him early release. For serious or repeated breaches, it is very possible that he could spend many months in prison again. Could even go right up to the end of his 2.5 years remaining. Some key points to take away here. Recall is not a new punishment. A lot of people think that it's a new punishment and the system hates him. No, it's not. This is continuation of his original punishment. He was sentenced to 5.5 years. He served half that. The authorities only need to believe that he broke his licensing conditions or poses the risk to the public. So he doesn't need to be resentenced. Reports confirm that Alex Belfield has been recalled to prison in March 2026 for breaching his conditions after his release in 2025. The Prison and Probation Service has not publicly disclosed the exact breach, but they have made it clear that he was returned to custody because he broke the rules of his release. So what likely caused this recall? Even though the exact trigger hasn't been officially stated, we can piece together some very likely reasons based on his restrictions and behaviour. 1. Online or media activity. He has strict limits on social media and public output. Authorities were concerned about him using these platforms again. And any video posts or indirect reference to victims could also trigger the call. This is the most likely cause given his history and platform use. Yeah, so he was quite possibly referring to his victims all in a cloak and dagger sort of way. And of course that upset the parole board, I suppose. Now, breaching his restraining orders. He has indefinite restraining orders to protect 10 victims. Even hinting at them or naming them or encouraging others could be counted against him. Ignoring his probation conditions, the reports suggest that planning public tours, right, was blocked. Activities being closely monitored. If he ignored instructions or started to push boundaries, recall is quite common in his case. Patterns of behaviour would suggest risk. In UK law, recall can happen before a new offence occurs. If he slips back into his harassment type behaviour or risk to victims has increased, right, that alone is enough to recall him. So how long will he stay back inside? It often appears that the standard recall, not a minor fixed term one, right? The likely scenario where he goes back to prison and his case will be reviewed by the parole board. Possible outcomes: he will get a few months if the risk is judged low after review, and several months to years if the risk remains, or until the end of his sentence, which will be the worst case scenario. As I said, he was originally sentenced to 5.5 years in 2022. He was released halfway on the 2025. So Alex Belfield still has a significant amount of time left on his licence, and if parole is refused, he could remain inside for another 2 and a bit years. So what can we take away from this? He has not been sent back for a new conviction. He was recalled because he breached his licensing conditions and or was judged a risk. In stalking cases, often authorities are particularly strict, especially where victims are identifiable and there is a history of online targeting. Well, given what we know about Alex Belfield, one, he's a self-confessed liar. He lies, and when he was given the opportunity to correct himself in court, he did say that he was not telling the truth about things like the BBC. Alex Belfield is one of these people, a narcissist, if you were, probably one of the nastiest, horrid type of narcissist, who will never, ever accept that he was at fault. Even recently, when he did that interview with the Liam character, he was completely unapologetic and he blamed everyone else. Alex Belfield will continue to blame everyone else for the rest of his life, and there's nothing we can do about it. Anyway, so I've rambled on for a good few minutes. So that's it. Alex Belfield breached his bail conditions, more likely, and he'll probably end up spending quite a bit more time in jail, simply because he refuses to accept responsibility. Once he accepts that it was his fault, he sent those thousands and thousands of emails, he sent pictures, he phoned relatives, family members, to make out that the person he was stalking was evil or wrongdoing. I mean, can you imagine your boss getting a phone call and saying, you were stealing, yeah, you were stealing paper, you were stealing goods, you were diverting funds, right? All lies, all gaslighting. And this is the problem with some of Alex Belfield's victims. There are many, many, many thousands of them out there. As you saw with the number of viewers or followers that he had, most of them have been gaslighted into believing that he did no wrong, that he collected money knowing that it was going to go to sue the BBC. Alex Belfield knew months in advance, before he started this campaign, that he wasn't going to sue the BBC. But everyone hates the BBC, so everyone donated to him so that he could sue the BBC. He knew that he was going to go to court for these stalking charges. That's why his house was raided several times. He knew that he was going to get into serious trouble, but he still kept grifting about taking the BBC to court, and he took that money and he kept it. Anyway, that's enough of me. I'm going to edit this, put it up, and I'll see you all on the next one. And by the way, I'm not obsessed about Alex Belfield. I just simply want to put the record straight for all those people who think that Alex Belfield is wonderful and an innocent. Well, he's not. He's a career criminal now, and he will spend probably a good few years in prison whether it's just for this case or other cases. But the man is a wrong 'un, and I'll see you all later.